Today's seminar will be covering order of operations. Our learning objective for today, or our I can statement, is I can apply order of operations to integers. So at this time I ask that you pause the video and copy this learning objective or I can statement into your notebook. Alright, so order of operations is a procedure that comes up in almost every area of mathematics that you will do in your life. When you have lots of numbers strung together with operations, there's a procedure that you do have to work through. And that procedure is listed out on this sheet here. So we have our old saying, PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And let's just talk through this process here a little bit, as you've seen this in the past, but as just a quick refresher, here's how we work through order of operations. So first and foremost, we should always start with anything that's in a parentheses. That could be something that looks like this, it could be brackets this way, or it could even be curly brackets. So if you ever have any grouping symbols like that, those will always come first in order of operations. Second, we have exponents, so that's anything to a power. So let's say you had like 5 squared. That would come second in the list of order of operations. Now, roots, such as square roots and cube roots, also follow the same procedure, but you won't see this at the 8th grade level. After you've taken care of exponents, then comes multiplication or division. Here, these ones are really interchangeable. You just have to make sure that you're working left to right. So if a multiplication would show up first, you would do that, and the same for a division problem. If that came up first, you would do that. So always keep in mind that multiplication and division can be switched around, but you need to be working from left to right across your paper. And after multiplication and division, we take care of any addition or subtraction. And the same rule applies here. Always work left to right. So if an addition problem would come up first, you would do that. Or if a subtraction problem would come up first, you would do that. Just keeping in mind to always work left to right. Just a couple of items to remember here at the bottom of this sheet that you'll put in your notebook. Right here it says follow the steps in the order listed above, so make sure you're following through the order of operations. One thing that I stress highly is to work one step at a time, recopy down anything that still remains, and don't skip any steps. I've been doing math for a long time, and I still show all of my work when I'm working through any type of problem, whether it be a calculus problem or I'm doing an order of operations. So please don't skip steps and show all your work. Which leads us to the last step here, which is show every step until you come to a solution. So this will be your note sheet to reference while working through order of operations. Please do keep this in your notebook and keep it somewhere where it's easily accessible. As I said earlier, order of operations will show up no matter what you're doing. Alright, let's get into our first example here then. And I'll be referring to the order of operations sheet as we work through our problems. So I'll be bringing this back into play as we go. So example 1 here says, in parentheses, -2 plus 6 to the 3rd power plus 6 minus a -3. Now, there's a lot going on here, but if we follow through the order of operations, we should be able to complete this problem successfully. So first and foremost, I'm going to look for any parentheses. And as I see here, there are parentheses. So first and foremost, I should be looking at this -2 plus 6. So once again, your integer operations show up here. We have a negative plus a positive. So if I look at this from the stance of absolute value, remember that, absolute value of -2 and absolute value of 6, I would end up with 2 and 6. I take the larger minus the smaller, so 6 minus 2, which is 4. And then I'd look back and see if I have more positives or more negatives. Well, in this case, I have more positives. 6 is bigger than a negative 2, so this 4 will stay positive. Now I'm going to go back and copy down everything that I still have left. So in parentheses still, I'm going to have 4 to the third power plus 6 minus a negative 3 in parentheses. So if I refer back to my list here, I've taken care of the parentheses at the beginning. Now I'm going to move to exponents. And here I can see that I have a exponent 4 to the third power here. Now 4 to the third power, I'm going to have to calculate that one real quick. I believe it's 64, but I just want to verify. Yep, so our answer there is 64. If you need a calculator for that one, that's okay. So 64. So I took care of my exponent. Now I'm going to copy down what I have left yet. Plus 6 minus a negative 3. Alright, so here we come to this rule here, working left to right. So as we can see, there's no multiplication or division, so we're going to go over that step and just skip it. If we don't have that there, we don't need to do it. So we're jumping down to addition or subtraction. So always work left to right. So we have 64 plus 6 minus a negative 3. So we should first take care of this 64 plus 6, which would end up giving us 70. And then writing down what we have remaining, minus a negative 3. Here's our keep, change rule. We're going to keep the sign of the 70, change the subtraction to addition, and change the sign of the second number from a negative to a positive. So we end up with 70 plus 3. So our final solution would be 73. And that would be our first example. So in terms of showing your work, this is what I'm expecting for any problem that you're working through. You're showing all of your steps and copying down what still remains. If you do this, you'll be more likely to get the problem correct. Please do make sure that you have this example copied down in your notebook, as well as any of the other examples that we're going to run through here today. So example 2. So as you can see, again, we have a lot going on here. And I'll bring this back into here, our order of operations. But our problem says 15 divided by negative 9 plus negative 8 plus 4 times negative 3. So working through the procedure here again, we want to look at parentheses. Well, here we can see that in the denominator there's a negative 8 plus 4. So we need to take care of that first. So let's go ahead and do that. Once again here we have integer addition, with opposite signs. So that means we're going to look at the absolute value of negative 8 and the absolute value of 4. Remember, that's the distance they are from 0. So negative 8 is 8 spaces from 0, and 4 is 4 spaces. Now we want to take the larger minus the smaller, so I'll just stick a subtraction sign in there, which gives us 4. And we look back to the original problem here and see if there are more negatives or more positives. Well, in this case we have more negatives, so our answer will be negative. So what I'm going to go ahead and do then is copy down everything that I have. So 15 divided by negative 9, let's see, plus negative 4. And actually, I'm going to put these in parentheses because, no, actually I'm not. Never mind. Negative 3. So here's the next step in our process. So what would come next here would be multiplication. We'd have our negative 4 times our negative 3. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So I would have a positive 12 there. So 15 divided by negative 9 plus 12 . Now the same thing is going to happen here, where we will get, we have integer addition but with opposite signs. So I'm going to go ahead and off to the right here, I'm going to show you what to do here. So we have negative 9, the absolute value of that, and the absolute value of 12. Well, the absolute value of negative 9 is a positive 9, and the absolute value of 12 is 12. Larger minus smaller, 12 minus 9 is 3. Look back at the original problem. Are there more positives or more negatives? Well, there are more positives, so our answer stays positive, which would lead us to 15 divided by 3. And that's our last step in the process here. Positive divided by a positive, they have the same sign, so we'd end up with a positive answer, and that will be 5. So that's example number 2. Make sure you do have that copied down in your notebook, as it will be referenced when you are working with order of operations. Then what I'd like you to do is, with our last problem, I would like you to go ahead and pause the video here and try working through this one on your own. Once you have come to a solution, play through the video and see if you came up with the right answer. So for our last example here, we do have kind of a lot going on. We have exponents, we have parentheses here, we have division. So thinking back to our yellow sheet here, we want to start with anything in parentheses. Well, I instantly see this negative 10 divided by negative 5 here. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that first. So negative 10 divided by a negative 5 is going to give a positive answer, because negative 10, or a negative divided by a negative, is a positive number. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy down everything that I have that I haven't worked with yet. So negative 10 divided by negative 5 would give me a positive 2, and I'm going to leave that in parentheses because we still do have to square it. So at this point, we've taken care of all parentheses. So moving next down to exponents. Well, do we have any exponents? Yes, we have a 5 to the second power and a 2 to the second power. So let's go ahead and take care of those. Now remember, if you're squaring something, you're multiplying it by itself however many times the power is. So in this case, we would have 5 to the second power, which is 5 times 5. Now if we were to have like 5 to the third power, we'd do 5 times 5 times 5. But in this case, it's just squared. So 5 times 5 is 25. I'm going to put the subtracting 6 back in there. And 2 squared is 4. So we'd have a plus 4. Now it just leaves us here with, well, let's refer back to our list here real quick. We don't have any multiplication or division, so we're going to skip that step because it's unnecessary. We don't have anything there. And we'll move down to our addition or subtraction. Now remember, you're always working left to right. So we should first start with our 25 minus 6. So 25 minus 6 would give me 19. And I still have a plus 4 here, so I'm going to bring that down. 19 plus 4, well, I'm going to think about this, and if I added 1 to the 19, it would give me 20. I'd have 3 left. So my final answer here would be 23. So please do make sure that you copy this example down in your notebook as well. Please feel free to refer to this video if you happen to forget what to do with order of operations, and hopefully this seminar today has helped clear up any confusion that you've had with order of operations. And once again, please do refer to this yellow sheet whenever you are working through order of operations.